Um, what we're going to do is handle questions at the end. So, and Audrey is going to handle the Q&A part of it. I think you all know the drill. You can go into chat, and at any time during the presentation, please type in your questions. And at the end, Audrey will collate all of them and ask them of our speaker. I want to just say, before I introduce Rachel, I just want to say a few words. I heard Rachel speak maybe 6 months ago. And I started following some of her rules and tips about how to increase the number of, God, I've just lost the word here, followers on Instagram. And I started out in February with 135 followers, and now I'm up into the 180s. So I know that the advice really works. I'm really thrilled that Rachel Wilkins is with us this evening. She's an art business coach and co-founder of Conception Arts. She is host and producer of the Smart Art Business podcast. And she also authored a book, The Definitive Guide to Selling Your Art Online. So Rachel, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Amy, for that very kind introduction, and good evening, everybody. It's a pleasure to be with you. A little addition to the title of the book, it is How to Sell Your Art Online Without Losing Your Damn Mind, because there is just a wealth of information out there, and I did try and keep the book down to the fundamentals. I'm not somebody who believes in fluff or packing a presentation or a book with information that you don't need. So for the purposes of this presentation, I'm going to keep it very compact and hopefully give you some tangible things that you can put into action right after this call, and hopefully see some results, just like Amy has seen some results as well. So I guess I'm going to just jump right behind the slides. Like was mentioned, anybody has any questions, anything is fair game. I am here as a resource, and I'm happy to help. But I think for now, if I jump behind the slides, and then we'll return for questions at the end. So let me just jump to my presentation. And folks, can you see my screen?
Yes, we can see it.
Oh, okay, wonderful. All right, I do have some notes here, so forgive me if I am looking down. Okay, so we're going to talk about how to sell your art on Instagram. Now, there are some things that we will probably talk about in the chat, one of which is scheduling, using some resources that are out there that are free in order to make this whole process a lot easier, because one of the things that I believe in is not spending more time on social media platforms, it's spending less time, but being smart about how you actually structure and batch your content to go out online. So let's jump right in. So just some of the reasons perhaps why you might be here, or why, some of the struggles you may be experiencing, or certainly some of the struggles that I've come up against with my community. One is that perhaps you find yourself struggling to know what to post, when to post, how to post, or maybe you're just feeling frustrated by Instagram and you need some direction. Like I mentioned, you maybe just want to spend less time and not more time on Instagram, so that you, of course, have more time to do what we all want to do, which is to create our artwork. Or perhaps struggle two is, maybe you're getting some interaction, you're getting some feedback and engagement, you're getting likes, you're getting comments, perhaps you're getting a couple of shares, but there's no consistency. This is something that comes sporadically and you're not entirely sure why it comes at certain times. And you're maybe struggling to grow your follow account. You are not alone there. This is something that a lot of my community do struggle with. Maybe you just do not have a clear, defined Instagram strategy. Or maybe you just don't know where to start. You have the followers, but you have no idea how to convert those followers into paying clients, because after all, the primary goal of anything that we do when we move about online is ultimately to sell our work, right? That is what we're all here for, after all. So perhaps you're just looking for some direction and ready to get laser focused on your Instagram efforts. All right, so as Amy kindly mentioned, my name is Rachel Wilkins. I'm going to skip a little through my introduction here since you already got a little intro from Amy. I will just say here that I have been in business for 10 years and I've worked collectively with 5,000 artists, that is on 2 continents and in 14 cities. But the most important metric here is that I have sold 6 figures of my own work in a calendar year. So I do know a little bit about how to sell artwork online. So I want to encourage you just to limit distractions. If you do have a pen and paper handy or some form of method of taking notes, do have that on hand. I'm going to be covering a lot of ground, and I'm not sure if these calls are recorded. And I encourage you to take action with what I share. Give it a try, just obviously, take a look at it and see what kind of results you're getting. And if you are getting results, continue to take those actions. So why Instagram? That is the big question. So there's currently 1 billion monthly users on Instagram, and that figure is growing rapidly. And importantly, most users, the average user spends at least 28 minutes on the platform. I spend way more time than 28 minutes, as my iPhone likes to remind me. I spend much more than 28 minutes, but the average person is spending that time on the platform. One of the most important pieces of data here is that 70% of people make purchase decisions based on what they see on Instagram. So we're seeing people not going to companies' websites, not going to, the big business, the big brands, home pages, websites, lead pages, landing pages, etc., but instead browsing for their content, for their products, for their services on Instagram. So it's fast becoming a marketplace. So that is a huge potential audience for your art business. And I always like to remind people, because, one of the things that I've heard from artists is, this is very overwhelming, it's very time consuming, etc. I just want to remind everybody that this, as of right now, is free, right? This is a marketing machine. Instagram is a marketing machine like nothing else, and it's completely free. That may change. That could change in the future. Instagram may limit our access to our followers, to our DMs, etc. They may try and monetize those things. But for today, for this date, the 20th of April, 2021, it is free. So instead of overwhelm, I encourage you to embrace Instagram, take it, at your own pace, and avoid overwhelm, and instead approach it with childlike curiosity. So Instagram gives us this massive potential reach, but it does come with a little work on our part. It is our job to maximize the tools and the resources that we have at our fingertips. Now, unfortunately, we do live in a world where people have short attention spans, even more so online, especially on Instagram, unfortunately. And also people want that instant gratification. So we do have to be ahead of our competition if we're going to stand out. So your Instagram feed, if anybody's not sure what the feed is, it's basically the first page on your individual personal Instagram page. It is the images that you see right below where your biography would be. That needs to be visually attractive, curated, enticing, and welcoming. It needs to be visually cohesive and well thought out. I want you to think of it this way. If somebody handed you a set of keys for an empty, beautiful gallery space on a high street in, your local town, would you leave the window empty? Would you talk about, or would you have an image of your photograph of your cat, or perhaps some posters about Game of Thrones or the latest TV show that you were watching? Would you have the space well lit? Would you have the artwork, nicely curated? The same principles that you would have for that in person gallery apply in this virtual space as well. You should treat this like a storefront, like a shop front. This is effectively a visual representation, a virtual representation of whatever your high street gallery would look like if you were given that opportunity. So here's what we're going to cover today. We're going to talk about planning and purpose, follower growth hacks, basically being the more niche, the better when we talk about followers, and also some of the effective ways to turn people who already follow you into paying clients. So let's jump right in. So let's talk about planning and purpose. Now, there are 3 elements that you really do have to nail if you want to inspire people to take action. And by action, we mean to get them to click that follow button. The follow button is the most essential thing, right? We can't nurture people. We cannot get to know and develop relationships with. We cannot give people calls to action to, let them know how they're going to work with us unless they hit that follow button. So first of all, we want to make sure that we have a unique grid, which in basic terms is when the follower lands on your page, we have about less than 2 seconds to influence them enough to want to hit that follow button. So the unique grid is the first 9 to 12 images that a follower sees, a user sees, even when they land on your Instagram page. They should be captivating enough to entice them to hit that follow button. So everything you're seeing over here on this left-hand little graphic here, it's clean, it's concise, it's on brand, the colors are nice, it's nicely spaced out. It's doing exactly what we want it to do. So when you are planning out and curating this part of your Instagram feed, watch out for putting too many similar pieces next to one another. Aim to break up the content visually so that it is obviously pleasing to the eye. And also one of the big things that I see a lot of artists do is they just post images of their artwork. So something happens there we call it art fatigue, right? It's just artwork, 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 and there's no story. Instagram, as much as it is a visual platform, it is also a tool for helping your community to get to know you better. So put a little bit of you into your Instagram feed as well. Now, if you're not somebody that likes to be on camera, that's totally fine. If you are comfortable on camera, have an image of you in your studio and, just let people in a little bit. If you are camera shy, an image of you perhaps working on a piece that doesn't have your face in it, totally fine, or some shots of your studio. I just encourage you to break up the content between art and kind of these action shots as well. Also, you can add these nice kind of white borders around just to make the content pop. You can do this with an app called VSCO. That's one of my, something that I use that is free. Simply just adding a white border to every image that you plan on posting, and then obviously putting it into the app. Obviously, you can also do this with Photoshop as well. Just get creative with this and remember that your Instagram feed can effectively be your portfolio. So just clear any clutter that you have on your feed and just be thoughtful about what that grid looks like. Just to share a little story with you, I was interviewing yesterday a major gallery director. It was actually somebody out in Zimbabwe who has spoke, at prestigious art fairs and festivals. She spoke at Art Basel. And I asked her what her process looks like when she receives a portfolio from an artist. I said, what does that look like? What are your next steps? And she said, the first thing I do once I've looked at the portfolio is I go to Instagram. So the decision makers, the gatekeepers, the bigwigs in the art world are using Instagram as a tool. So do a little audit on your Instagram. Make sure that everything you have on there makes sense. Try not to make it confusing to that viewer, and just think of it as your visual online portfolio. So let's talk a little bit about captions. Now, while Instagram is a visual platform, we do need to also be thoughtful about the captions that we add underneath the photographs. And I see a lot of people go wrong with this. I see people just posting an image and then not having any content underneath and just going straight in with hashtags. The problem with this is the lovely algorithms basically reward the posts that people spend more time on. So Instagram is looking for what we call long form captions. This is a caption that takes a person a couple of seconds, not just, 2 seconds, a little bit more than that to read. So rather than just putting hashtags or something like a one-liner underneath the images, be a little bit more thoughtful about your captions. Now, don't think that you have to constantly be writing captions. I know from a lot of artists, writing is not our thing. We've not signed up to be copywriters. We're here to be artists, but don't be afraid of, or don't feel like you constantly have to be creating new content. You can repurpose content that you've used before. In fact, I am very pro repurposing content every 30 days. That is something that is very effective. And of course, look at the captions that have worked well for you before and consider putting them on posts with different images just to mix up the content. I promise you, you will not have anybody saying, well, I've heard this one before. Just think, you are always getting new followers. There are, new people that don't know you, don't know what you do. And also don't assume that every person who follows you is reading everything that you post. Unfortunately, that is not the case. But yes, long form captions is the way to go. But the first rule of creating any kind of content, and content specifically for captions should really follow this same rule, is to do one of the following. So either educate, inspire, motivate, or entertain. That could be something as simple as sharing about your process, sharing about the materials that you use and why you use them. Share a little bit about your studio, what an average day looks like, what you do, what you listen to when you create. I think a lot of the things that we take as mundane and monotonous parts of being an artist are actually very interesting to non-artists. So don't assume that by sharing something that might not seem relevant or important to you won't be relevant and important to your audience. But again, get creative with this. When you are writing captions, try to set the tone and use your authentic voice. Don't try and be somebody else. Don't try and write like somebody else's, captions that you're seeing online. Let people get to know you. Again, this is, it bolsters brand identity. The whole kind of ethos of digital marketing, and this is just a form of digital marketing, is that, people don't buy products and services, and artwork being a product. They buy the person, right? They buy you, they invest in you, they invest in the artist. And in order to buy from you and feel like they have a connection to you and to feel motivated to buy from you, they need to feel like they know, like, and trust you. And you do that by developing a human connection within the captions with the images that you post. So don't be afraid to let people in a little. And obviously this is, set your own comfort level. You don't need to be completely vulnerable with this. It is entirely what is most comfortable for you, but don't be afraid to just let people in a little bit. So the other thing is that the other thing that you can use captions for, and this is something that works particularly well for community engagement, is to ask questions. So to encourage that engagement, the more engagement that you get on the posts, the more likely Instagram is to put you higher up in those algorithms and essentially get more eyes on your work. So by asking questions in the captions, you're encouraging dialogue, right? You're encouraging conversation. It could be something like, asking your audience what they think of when they see this particular piece, or asking them, asking them for help naming a piece. That's something that I've seen a lot of artists do successfully. Or something as simple as, what inspires you to purchase a piece? What motivated your last creative, purchase, the last piece of artwork that you bought? That can be very insightful, and you can obviously use that to your advantage. So, one of the most effective captions that all of you could do today is an introduction post or a reintroduction post. It's something that so many of us assume that everybody who follows us knows exactly what we do and knows exactly how to work with us and knows exactly how to get in touch with us. Most of the time, none of those things are true. I want you to shift your thinking and assume that everybody that follows you online knows nothing about you. And I want you to take the opportunity to create an introduction post. Now, it can look like something as simple as, I notice I have a few new followers lately, so I wanted to take an opportunity to just reintroduce myself and tell you a little bit about what I do, how you can work with me, how you can purchase my artwork, and get to know, and so that you can get to know me a little better. That is one of the most powerful things that you can do. And I encourage you to do it at least once every 30 days. It doesn't have to be the same image. Again, it doesn't necessarily have to be a selfie or image of your face on camera. It can be something as simple as, an image of your artwork or a studio shot or something that you are comfortable with. But try that and see what kind of results that you get. I'm sure you're going to get some engagement from doing those kind of posts. All right, so let's talk about hashtags. Hashtags is kind of the boogeyman of Instagram. So there's a lot of mystery around hashtags, and Instagram has just a reputation of kind of moving the goalposts with a lot of things. But the essential thing that you need to know about hashtags is they are basically used to categorize content. That is it, to make content more easily discoverable. Hashtags are clickable and searchable. Anyone who clicks on an Instagram hashtag or conducts an Instagram hashtag search will see an entire feed of posts that have been tagged with that particular hashtag. So bear that in mind when you think about what hashtags you're going to use. Now, there's a difference between a macro hashtag and a micro hashtag. I recommend steering away from macro hashtags. Now, an example of a macro hashtag would be hashtag art, right? That is probably the biggest macro hashtag in our industry. Now, the reason that's not going to be something that's necessarily going to serve you well is there's probably about 20 million people using that hashtag. So what happens? You end up at the bottom of the pile. You don't come up in those search results. The best way to attract your ideal clients is to pay close attention to what hashtags they are using, what hashtags they follow, and what hashtags are trending in your industry. So look at your industry. Obviously, I know we have primarily Mosaic artists. Look and see what hashtags other Mosaic artists are using. Especially pay attention to artists who have a particular high engagement and see what hashtags they are actually using, because chances are they are going to be the hashtags that you need to be using as well. So in terms of looking and identifying micro hashtags, you want something that falls between kind of less than 50,000. So something that has less than 50,000, results, search results. Anything bigger and you're going to get lost in the mix. So try to find 50 hashtags that are relevant and obviously that make sense to your business. Copy and paste them somewhere where you can easily access them, whether that is the notes section in your phone, or on a desktop. If you create your content on the desktop, this is going to make your life a lot easier. Now, I like to batch them in groups of 10. That makes my life a lot easier. And I rotate them, and then I look to see what kind of results that I get. The limit is 30 hashtags. And just a quick note on, there's some discrepancy or some confusion as to whether the hashtag should appear in the actual caption itself or in the first comment. There's no real rhyme or reason as to which one is better, other than it looks aesthetically better when you don't put them in the post itself. I personally don't really think it matters too much, but if you're somebody who likes a nice clean caption, put the hashtags as the first comment. Now, the only thing with that is if you are going to do that, you need to ensure that you are the first comment. So you need to make sure that nobody gets there before you and comments on your post. Otherwise, you're going to have to go back, redo the post, and add the hashtags into the captions. All right, so hopefully that makes sense. We can obviously dive deeper into that if anybody has any questions at the end of the session. So the other thing that I see so many people neglect is a call to action. If you're posting on social media and you do not have a call to action, it is akin to yelling into an empty room, right? It is an opportunity missed. Every single thing you post, every single post should have a call to action. Again, it's that assumption that people know how to work with us. We have to assume that nobody has any clue how to interact with us, how to contact us, how to buy our artwork. We have to give them clear, concise instructions on what to do next. So again, just have something in your back pocket, have this on your desktop somewhere easily easily accessible with the notes section of your phone. And again, you just get creative with these. I like to have kind of 5 that I rotate, and obviously depending on what it is that I'm actually posting will determine what call to action I'm actually giving, but try to keep them brief, concise, and easy for the user or the follower to, to follow. Okay, so I want to share with you a phenomenal growth hack, which I believe is how Amy increased her follower count. Now that we're moving around Instagram with more intent, we have more purpose, we're being more thoughtful, we're doing great captions, we're posting great content, we're using a call to action, and we're adding those hashtags. Now you want to start to raise your profile so that you can begin to attract ideal clients. Now, if you want to skip straight to this, I will tell you now, unless you've audited and followed the steps in the first part of this presentation, this is a waste of time, because you want to make sure that your Instagram profile is fully optimized, attractive, appealing, enticing, so that when you attract these followers, and these people are going to go to your profile page, you want to make sure that they are going to hit that follow button, because once again, we only get that 2 seconds or less for them to take that action. So try not to skip ahead until you have followed the steps that I just outlined before you go and do this growth hack. If you are already ahead of the game and you do have a concise, succinct looking Instagram profile, fully optimized, great, get to work with this. It is phenomenal and it works. So our goal is to attract a steady flow of followers. However, it is much more important that we have a quality list of clients rather than just large quantities and these big vanity numbers that we see kind of the influencers have. We want to make sure that the people that are following us are actually engaged and are people who are pre-qualified to be potential buyers. So therefore, we're going to get really focused on how to get the right people to follow you. So what I'm going to share with you has been very successful for me and has been very successful for a lot of artists that I've worked with. So what I want you to do is I want you to take some time, and this is something that you can do while you're sitting watching television. It is not something that requires any brain power. Basically, identify Instagram accounts of artists who work in not necessarily the similar medium. You don't need to be looking specifically for Mosaic artists, but look for artists that have good engagement, a good follow account. So at least kind of 10,000 is kind of the benchmark, who are consistently having engagement on their posts. They get several likes, they get interaction, they get comments. I want you to make sure that the artists that you pick are artists that you could see your work hanging or displayed in the same gallery as, right? So for example, if you are you paint landscapes and there's this, neon artist, probably not a good fit, right? So, but find something that really seems like it could be displayed either in the same home or in the same, environment. So once you've done that, look at their posts, look at their most recent posts, and go into the comment section on one or more of the artist posts and click on the link to basically click on the profile of those that have made the most recent comments. So you're going into the comments section underneath the artist's most recent posts. That could be the most recent, or one of the 3 most recent posts. Look who's commenting in that section and go ahead and click and follow those people. Now look who's liking those posts. Again, this is all information that we have access to right now. We may not have access to this for much longer. There is rumor that the like function is leaving Instagram very soon, which will make this lesson mute. But you should go and see who's liked those posts and follow those people who have liked and commented on these artists. Now do this a couple of times a week. So identify another artist that fits that bill, go into the comments section and go into the most recent post, follow the people that have liked, follow the people that have commented. In a week, you're going to see results. You're going to see immediate results from this. You're going to see your follower list grow. If you do this 10 people per day, if you have a little extra time on your hands, you're going to see exponential growth. It's a numbers game. So, again, this is something you can do easily in front of the television. I actually personally gained one of my biggest clients, who is now a big time collector. She's actually an art dealer. She's out in Long Island. I connected with her by doing this exact tactic, and she is consistently buying from me and has done for the last several years. Now, if you're thinking this sounds a little bit unethical, right, because you're going and effectively stealing other artists' followers, I want you to think about it a little differently, like shift your thinking. If you were paying Facebook to do paid ads, this is exactly what Facebook would be doing. The only difference here is that we're doing it organically. We're taking the initiative and we're doing it ourselves. Right? We're going and putting ourselves in front of our ideal clients. Exactly the same thing as what Facebook would be doing if we were paying for ads. Facebook ads are amazing. They have incredible results, but they cost a lot of money. So this is real kind of scrappy, effective, no budget tactics of how to get organic growth. I also want to just reiterate that, the person who I followed and, attracted this particular client that I still work with today, she still buys from that other artist. I didn't steal anybody away from anybody else. So there is room for all of us. Effectively, all we're doing is we are presenting ourselves. We're not forcing anybody to follow us. We're not forcing anybody to buy from us. We're simply putting ourselves in front of our competitors, our colleagues, our fellow artists' audience. So that is the powerful, powerful principle that I have adopted in my art business over the years that's worked incredibly well for me. The other thing is, this works really well with locations and also other places of business. So think about where your ideal client might also hang out, right? Where do they eat? Where do they dine? Where do they buy their clothing from? Where do they buy their furnishing from? Is there a specific interior designer that's local to you that perhaps they go to? Again, go into the followers of their most recent posts. Hit follow, look at who's liked the post, and again, strategically just go through those followers and follow those accounts. And again, you're going to see results. All right, so again, do this consistently and you will see an uptick in your engagement. So let's talk about sales. That is, of course, the big one. That is why we are here. I want to just share one of the most effective ways that you can engage your followers. Once we've kind of established that we have an attractive profile, we've worked hard on getting those ideal clients into our world. Now, what do we do, right? Do we just continue to post regular content? Yes, we want to keep everybody entertained, engaged, etc. But we also want to make money, right? We're artists, so that is why we're here. We want to be able to make money from the artwork that we create. So if you've ever gone to buy an airline ticket and you see a little kind of tagline that pops up and says 3 seats left at this price, is something that I was doing it today, actually trying to make a hotel reservation. We all have that like kind of panic, right? We've got to buy this. That is scarcity. And it is a psychology principle that goes back to the formula of supply and demand. Basically, the more rare an opportunity, or the more, the fewer products that exist, the more perceived value there is. So we're going to use the power of scarcity by limiting the availability of your work to specific launch periods. Now, whether that is a limited edition, I want to say prints, but we're Mosaic artists, or whether that is a specific new product that you're bringing out, or if it's a revitalization of a previous body of work, whatever it is, if you follow this strategy, you will start to see results. Now, it doesn't mean that during times where you're not launching a scarcity launch, that your work is not available. That wouldn't make any sense. It just simply means that for a couple of times a year, usually once a quarter, you operate in sales mode. That is basically a time where you are 100% focused on selling your work and nothing else. So how long does a selling period look like? How long does one of these launches last? It can be anything you want it to be. This is entirely up to you. There are theories about a 5-day launch being the most effective, but if you want to do 7, that's fine too. If you want to do 3, that is also fine. The important thing is that you up the tempo of everything that you do in the digital space during these specific times. It's a change of pace that your audience notices. There's going to be the element of frequency. So you're going to be using Instagram and whatever other social media platforms you're active on. You're going to be using them, and you're going to be upping the pace of how frequently you're actually posting. So frequency and scarcity work hand in hand. So let's talk about the nuts and bolts of how you would run a scarcity launch. First of all, you want to determine what it is exactly that you're going to launch, whether it's a new series, a small collection of previous works, limited edition, something that you decide. Whatever it is, get your ducks in a row, determine exactly what it is you're going to make available for this 3, 5, or 7-day period. Then you want to book it. You want to get a date on the calendar, determine the length of the launch period, and also determine how long you'll give folks to make a purchase decision. So effectively, if you have the launch go live on a Monday, you're going to want to shut down access to this particular item or collection by, say, Friday at 6 p.m. And you want to be very rigid with that time. Then, obviously, once you've got it booked and you have, put out a date, and I do suggest you give yourself at least kind of 3 weeks run-up time before you plan a launch. I don't recommend that you go out today and say you're having a launch next week. You want to give yourself enough time to talk about, to build anticipation, and to get your followers and audience excited about the fact that this is coming. That is a big part of this. Once you have the date and you know exactly what it is that you're going to be launching or selling, you want to be able to map it. All that means is you're going to plan out exactly what you're going to do during that launch period. How are you going to show up differently? Are you going to go live? Are you going to do Instagram Reels? Are you going to up your game from 1 post a day to 3 posts a day? Whatever it is, determine how you want to show up for your audience. And most importantly, make sure that everything is working. This is kind of rookie mistake 101. Having a launch and not testing things like your payment links. One of the biggest downfalls, and one of the places where we see people fall through the cracks when it comes to making purchase decisions, is having too many steps from here's the item and here's how much it is to them swiping their credit card. Keep that process as simple as possible. If you can do it in 1 step, fantastic. If you need one in between, that's okay. But anything more than 2 steps to get to credit card information, and it is data science to the wazoo that shows that people will fall through the cracks. So make sure your links work, make sure that people can easily purchase. And again, that call to action is ever so important, to let people know exactly how they can seal the deal, close the deal, and make that purchase. And then, of course, the big one is to promote it. When the big brands are launching a limited edition product, they don't just launch it without any prior promotion, and neither should you. So build excitement, generate, anticipation, and let folks know what to expect and when to expect it. This is something that, if you're going to do this on Instagram, you should also be talking to your mailing list about this, texting previous clients, getting in touch with your collectors, letting people know that this is going to happen. You can have behind the scenes images of you prepping for the launch in your stories. You can have the addition of a countdown timer in your Instagram stories, letting people know when exactly this is going to happen. Essentially, you can experiment with all of the tools that Instagram provides in order to build anticipation. And then, of course, the final and most important part is to follow through and actually do it, to host a launch, to have fun, to put your work out there, to use the scarcity tactics, to promote it, and to make money, hopefully. Then you rinse and repeat. One of the most important things to do after any kind of launch is to debrief, to see what works, to see what got your audience excited and engaged. And then again, I like to do something like this once a quarter. You do what works, best for yourself. But again, this is something that there should be a revenue generating activity in your business at least once a quarter. And this is a really effective way to do this in the digital space. So again, this strategy works really, really well. We right now have a lot more control over our art business than we've ever had before. We don't really need that gallery representation to reach clients directly, but we do need to do a little bit of groundwork and think a little bit more like marketers, which is something that doesn't necessarily come naturally to all of us, but it is possible with a couple of these steps implemented, on a regular basis. We really can kind of shift our thinking from starving artists to savvy art business professionals. We can do phenomenal things when we put our minds to it. And again, this is a free resource. It is at our fingertips, available to us, but we just have to maximize it to its full potential. So again, folks, it has been a pleasure chatting with you. We are going to take some questions. I would encourage you to implement at least one of the things that I've shared today. Feel free to follow me on Instagram. And I love to hear when people do have wins, and I certainly will share and repost and do all of the fun things on my Instagram. Feel free to certainly reach out to me with any questions as well. And I think that is the end of the presentation. So I will gladly take any questions that anybody has. Did I unshare? Let's see.
Thank you so much, Rachel. We really enjoyed that. That was a lot of great information and super helpful for, I know I'm not very active on Instagram, and I'm going to implement some of your tips. So thank you so much.
Absolutely.
I'm going to go through some of the questions we received. First, I know you talked about the grid, the captions, and the hashtags. A lot of us are new to Instagram. Would you say those are the most important things, or what are the most important tips that us newbies should focus on to really get started?
I think the fundamentals is your feed. Now, there's a lot of other things, bells and whistles, that Instagram has. For example, stories, IGTV, Instagram Live, Reels, all these features that are available to us. But if our feed is ugly or confusing or a mixed bag of a little bit of everything, the rest of it is really pointless, right? We want to make sure that this is effectively, like I mentioned, this is like our storefront, right? This is our gallery storefront. So we want to make sure that this is absolutely, seamless, tells a story, lets people know exactly who we are, what we do. And then the other features, I wouldn't recommend diving into everything right away. I would pick one feature and do it really well before you move on to something else. So I think for anybody who's new, getting this stuff nailed down is 101.
Okay, great. In terms of posting new pictures for the feed, how do you get a full picture without it being cut off?
I'm not sure exactly if I'm understanding the question. A full picture in the feed.
Well, I know that when I like upload a picture from my phone to Instagram, it seems like the edges are cut off. Is there a way to make it not happen like that?
So yes, so Instagram likes the perfect square. That is the dimensions that it favors. If you do anything that is not a perfect square, it's either going to stretch or it's going to crop. Exactly like you said, it's going to give those ugly looking edges. Most smartphones have the feature, the function to be able to resize to square. Another effective tool is, if anybody is familiar with Canva. Canva is a phenomenal resource for creating kind of graphic design, easy graphic design flyers. They also have a great resize option if you create something in Canva, you can actually just hit resize specifically for Instagram and it'll resize into an Instagram size post. But easiest way, do it on your cell phone, crop it to a perfect square, and then you'll be able to post it.
Okay, excellent. Thank you.
And also, sorry, just on that note, if you're struggling and it's something that looks weird when you crop it into a perfect square, use something like VSCO. That is another app. It is free. They're going to try and charge you. They're going to try and tell you need to upgrade. You don't. Most of these apps do this. They say, oh, you need the premium. You don't. I still use the free version.
Okay, great. You mentioned something about payment methods. Are people taking payment directly on Instagram, or are you speaking of, like connecting it to your website? What do you mean by, what's the easiest and best payments?
So Instagram does have the shop feature. I'm not really promoting that fact right now until it's got a little bit more time behind it. So I was speaking more to your specific portal, wherever you sell your artwork, wherever people can actually purchase it online. Make sure that there is, if anything, it's one link to one page where there's a payment button. Now, if you don't have the option for e-commerce on your website, the other thing is to just have a caption that you've already prepared that has a link to an invoice or something that where you can send them the exact steps that they need to be able to actually make that payment. It's just one of the things that somebody in my private coaching group, we were just having a conversation recently, and she said, I'm going to send an email with the price, and then there's going to be this back and forth, and it's like five back and forth conversations where you have more chance of losing that sale. Like if somebody inquires and said, I'm interested in purchasing it, send them the payment link. Here's how you pay for it. Here's how here's how I'll send it to you.
You have a recommendation for that? How do you feel about PayPal or Square, or what do you think is best?
I use something called, let me pull it up so I give you the right one, Invoice to Go. It's an app. There is a little bit of a monthly fee on it, but the thing that I like about that is it allows the buyer to make the decision between a credit card transaction or a PayPal transaction. So then the buyer has the choice. It uses a processor, I think, maybe Stripe, something like that. But there's a ton on the market. If you use QuickBooks, they have their own built-in feature as well.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
In terms of posting images on your feed, what do you think about posting multiple images? Like when you have them combined in one post, or do you recommend spreading them out?
So that's a great question. It's called a carousel when you can swipe through. Instagram loves carousel. They love it. It's another one of those things. It's second to Reels is the most impactful, gets the most is most favorable with the algorithm. So I highly encourage you to do carousel. The only drawback with carousel is you can't pre-schedule in later. You can only pre-schedule one individual image. So if you're somebody who's going to batch your content ahead of time, that's not something that you can do. But if you're going to do it sporadically and you want to just pop in every now and then and post a carousel image, absolutely do it.
Okay, great. Thank you.
That works well as well for like a work in progress. If you want to show kind of, here's the finished product, here's what it looked like to get there. That's a really effective way of doing that.
Okay, awesome. How would you compare Instagram to Pinterest?
Ooh, Pinterest is, I think we're going to see a lot of exciting things from Pinterest. I don't know whether that is something that's happening right now, because I feel like the users on Pinterest are browsers, not necessarily buyers. But I could be wrong. It's not something that I'm spend a lot of time on, although I probably should. But I'm not seeing the kind of chatter and the kind of industry conversations around Pinterest that I am around Instagram.
Okay.
That may be very different in a couple of years though, because I have heard exciting things about, what's happening at Pinterest.
Is it something you want to share?
No, just that there people are recommending that you buy stock in Pinterest right now, because I know that they are looking at digital ads, which is unfortunate. More investment in digital ads, which means more revenue for the platforms, which means they get more people, et cetera, et cetera. Kind of what Facebook did.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So question about hashtags. Some of the hashtags we use will have top or recent collections of images, and the top images always show up first. How do we know how we can be in the top images?
I'm not sure there's like a rhyme, like any particular formula. I think you're more likely to appear in the top if you are picking a niche hashtag that is very specific. Like I imagine if you were to pick your location and mosaic art, or something that is very niche, combining two niche things together, then you're much more likely to appear higher up. Engagement is a big part of how high up in the algorithm you get. If you can get conversations happening in your comments underneath the captions, you're more likely to appear higher up. But again, Instagram has no guidelines that they put out publicly about how people get verified or how you can appear higher in those searches. But I think organically the things that you can do are encourage conversation. When people always, no matter who it is or what they comment, always respond to comments, even if somebody just simply says nice work, say thank you, because that's going to tell Instagram that you're an engaged account and going to tell them to send more people.
So it sounds like it's more about your account overall and not just that one particular post that makes it in the top.
1,000%. Yeah, you can actually do much more harm by posting after not posting for 2 weeks. That's like, it just doesn't make any sense to kind of pop in every 10 days and do a post, because you're going to lose that momentum and you're going to lose followers, because if people are not seeing something that is keeping them excited or engaged, they're going to fall off. So the best thing that you can do, and everybody's probably going to hate this, but is to post every day. There are things that you can do to avoid being on the platform every day. Nobody wants to be on Instagram every day. I'm sure there's probably questions about this, but there is some phenomenal scheduling software. Later is my personal favorite. Again, you don't need the premium account. You just need their basic, totally free. It's later.com. It allows you 30 posts, I believe, with the free plan, which is enough for one every day, pretty much, give or take one
30 a month?
day. Yeah, 30 a month. And it will also allow you, if you are engaged on other social media platforms, Twitter, Facebook, any of the others, it will allow you, and Pinterest actually, to post to all of those for 30 days as well. So, if you're looking to just have one spot where you go, upload all your content, write your captions, add your hashtags, and then step away from it for a month, later is the answer.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
What do you think about Etsy compared to Instagram?
Etsy's not really been something I've spent a lot of time on because it has seemed to be more on the craft market, and I've really primarily spent most of my time on the fine art side. But I know people have results. It is obviously a marketplace. I think like anything, any kind of selling platform, you you can't just kind of put your art on a selling platform and expect that the buyers are going to arrive, right? We have to do some groundwork to increase our visibility and then direct people. And I think the most effective ways that we can increase our visibility is to, be active on social media, use the features. Also, press is one of the biggest ways to increase your visibility. Identifying opportunities, local opportunities are fantastic. To reach more people and then direct them to those selling platforms. So, Etsy, if it works for you, great. But again, what works for one artist, what selling platform works for one artist doesn't necessarily work for everybody. So you really have to kind of have a little bit of trial and error with those things.
Okay. Another question about payments. Back to the payment question. What are your thoughts on Venmo? Is that something that is good to use for, getting payments?
Yeah, and it's becoming more and more common. Actually, the client I just mentioned just messaged me yesterday and said, she had 2 of my pieces on consignment, and she said, can you send me a Venmo request? And, it's instant, which is awesome, right? It's, immediate payment. I'm not sure on the processing fees. I don't think it differs too much from any of the other big, payment processes. Yeah, absolutely. I'm very pro Venmo. Any way to get that
Okay.
money in your control ASAP is fine.
Yeah, I think Venmo still doesn't have processing fees right now. So
It's also operated with PayPal. I think I think PayPal owns Venmo, which is awesome. I think one of the big processes. Yeah.
Well, those are all the questions that we have. If anyone else has a question, wants to unmute yourself, feel free now. Is the time. Rachel, thank you so much. This has been great.
Absolutely. It's been such a pleasure. And obviously, if anybody has any follow-up questions or just wants to reach out, you have my Instagram information. You can certainly do so there.
Could you just remind us of your Instagram handle?
Sure. It's just Rachel Wilkins Biz, BIZ. And you can also check out smartartbiz.com, which is where you'll find the podcast, my book, or a bunch of other things that we have going on.
Great.
Thanks, Rachel.
Thanks, everyone. Have a wonderful evening.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rachel.
Bye.
Bye.